All right, lease for 14-passenger school bus. First read.
First read. Board of Education, the school district has 3 white minibuses that you will sometimes see parked either right now. If you look out the window, you can see them parked in our tennis court lot. One is a special ed handicap accessible bus that was donated to the school district. It's about 8 or 9 years old. We use this with transporting some of our special needs students to job location programs and their transition programs. The other 2 we use for activities and athletics for small teams, clubs, people going to competitions, etc. The 2 that are on the lease are the 2 minibuses, so their 3-year lease is up. And Scott has been working to try to get prices on new leases, and I'll let him go into that.
Okay, the first thing, the current lease that we have, we're paying $7,646 per bus for a total of $15,292. I sent out requests for quotes to 4 different bus companies out there. There's not that many that are in this industry. I had 2 that did not quote, and I had 2 that quoted. Midwest Transit, our current vendor that we have for these buses, came back with the best price of $9,270 on it, beat out Midwest Sales by $4.55 per bus. They are very good to work with. And in there you can see that the cost increased due to the increase in the Chevy chassis, which is the most popular chassis for these buses that are out there. I did have them quote what Ford was. Ford was actually a little higher because they don't produce as many as the Chevy, so it came in higher. And then interest rates on the lease increased from 2.70 to 4.75. The one thing that I do want to give the board is, for example, our golf team. If you were to use First Student to go to a course, you're probably looking at one trip to the course and back is probably about $300 for one trip. So if you take that and times that per 1 week that they're practicing on this, and that's just the boys. If you did it with the girls, it starts to add up. So you can see that these mini buses are very cost effective for the district with it as you go through the entire school year on it. They're utilized pretty much every day.
Well, we even
school.
looked last year, we did a study, didn't Mr. Doman and you do a study on the possibility of getting a third?
Yes.
And then it came out that it was just, that was not as adding a third cost was not as efficient.
Not as efficient, and then also we don't have teams that fell into that category of number of participants. So we try to maximize our sports teams that have the lower numbers to utilize these, but some of them are just too big, you wouldn't be able to do it, and it wasn't economical to have the third one.
Okay. And wasn't there something with delivery?
Oh, that was an issue too. The biggest issue is because the lease is up at the end of June, Midwest Sales couldn't guarantee that they would have delivery of their 2 buses by July 1. Midwest Transit is able to have delivery here July 1, and plus they're our vendor with it, so if it runs a little bit over it, they can still guarantee it with it. So that was a huge issue that I had, and I didn't want to commit to anybody without the board seeing it and understanding, every contract has to be approved through the board with it for this.
Do we use these in the summer?
Yes.
Okay.
Scott, what's the fuel cost to fill up one of these?
They get
Roughly.
about, I would say that I think they get about 10 to 12 miles per gallon on them. I'm not exactly sure what the cost of fuel is. If you broke it down, that's something that I could look into for you on it. They're not going very far, though. Sometimes, they're just going from here to, say, a ball field,
Sure.
and you're using them locally. But they have been used to go to a state chess tournament on a weekend with it. So I would have to look into what the average fuel
was just
cost would be.
interested, just curious.
So a couple of years ago, when I created a purchasing agreement with the Village of Riverside so that we purchase our fuel for our minibuses and driver's ed cars out of the public works station with the village. And so I think there's a small markup, but it's not the same as if we were going to, we used to go to Citgo or the Speed Mart or whatever, and now we fill up our vehicles all at the village public works station.
Okay.
The other thing he brought up really good at the end, as a good example, was like when we go down for a state chess meet. So the kids go down to, I think it's Illinois State or somewhere in Springfield for the state chess meet, and we take the minibus. We pay, a sponsor is paid by a board account for the whole stipend for the whole year, and then we usually pay for an additional sponsor to go at that weekends for overnight supervision and transportation supervision. But then there's no transportation cost. If you were using First Student, you usually got to pay for the bus driver to go down there, the bus driver's hotel, and then the bus driver, so you're paying for that bus driver for the whole weekend. It's not like where he drops you off and stays, because you need to be able to get the kids to dinner, back to the hotel, back to the venue, etc. So it does become very expensive very fast.
Are there any special licensing requirements to drive this? It's not a CDL, is it?
It is not. All of our teachers get some training, correct, Scott? They turn in their license, they can put on the insurance, we go through the emergency exits.
We give them training at the beginning of the year, and we submit to the state their driving record to make sure that they have a clean driving record on it. If they were to use it during the regular school day, there is a special license that you need. Our special ed department, there's several teachers that have that license, so they are able to do curriculum-based work at a different site using that bus. They get our special ed kids there. But in general, if it's used after school, which these are for the activities and the sports, there is no special license for it.
Good question. Thank you.
This is kind of off subject, but speaking of buses, there was a bus company that was shut down, I think, this week or last week. Do we do any business with them?
We do all our busing through Grand Prairie, which is purchased through LADSI, and then First Student is our activity and athletics. I don't think that was any of ours.
Okay. Began with an S. It'll on the tip of my tongue. But they shut down overnight. It was a pretty big outfit.
So, just so the board understands, we just recently, I think either right before you got on, we approved a 3-year extension with First Student. We don't provide, our special ed transportation is provided by Grand Prairie, and we don't provide any during the day routes. So if you have students that are athletes or people watching their student athletes or sometimes their club complain about buses being late or having to wait outside for the bus or pick up and drop off, it's because we are basically a third, we're the third route for First Student. So they got to run their routes for school districts that are actually using them for pickup and drop off. And then they come to us after that to take the kids to their athletic events and stuff like that. So, but even with that, when we went out to bid 2 years ago, we sent out 4 or 5 requests to bids and we got 2. The same thing is because people are having trouble finding bus drivers, and especially in the off hours for high school sports when you're coming home, you're picking a group up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock and you're not getting back till 9 o'clock. So, and this is a first read, Scott. If the board waits till the next meeting to approve it, that still provides you enough time? Or do you need that? Is this something you would ask the board to consider tonight?
I would ask them to consider it tonight. The pricing on that, I have worked with the different vendors and got that down significantly compared to what the first quote that came back on it. The biggest thing is I'd like to have this locked in so that it would be signed, sealed, delivered, and then get the contract agreed to with them, and then have delivery July 1.
Scott, how much was the first quote?
The first time that they came in, it was over $10,000 for each bus. I want to say it was like $10,800.
Did First Group and Commercial Bus Sales indicate why they wouldn't bid? Or they wouldn't
They did
submit a
not.
quote?
I
They just did not respond.
I sent the exact quote. One came back that we cannot quote on it, and then the other one, I kept calling, and never got a response from them. As I sent the email and even spoke to the guy. I said, here's our specs on it. Can you please get it to me? And I never got anything back from them.
So at the end of the day, this has gone up $3,000 plus. Is that what we're talking about? From the previous?
Yes. about 3,200. And that would be locked in for the 3 years.
Right. $1,000 a year more.
Right.
Do we
Now,
have any-
Scott, one thing obviously, we like not to, so the first meeting with the new board, I've already broken my rule where I don't ask them to vote on something the first time they're seeing it. So I'm sure they're all looking at me like, well, Kevin said we wouldn't have to. So,
I understand.
It's a tight timeline, so.
I understand you're trying to get this in so that we can, it gives you basically the month of June to get it turned around, right? So that we have the buses for July.
I know I would have had it to the last board meeting. It was still under negotiation as to what the final price would be, and were they gonna match it, were they not gonna match it? And then could we get delivery July 1 if we went with the other company? And then Midwest Transit came in and said, we will match the price, and they actually beat the price and can guarantee the July 1.
So-
That was my holdup on the last, without bringing it to the
Yeah.
board prior to this.
So their letter, they indicated they could also offer a 5-year plan. Was there an additional price change for a 5-year offer?
Wasn't there something with the repairs then?
The 5-year one,
I'm sorry.
you could lease it, but the thing is it would be full warranty for 3 years, 36,000 miles on that, and then depending on how much wear and tear it has, the district would be on the hook for the maintenance, year 4 and 5.
So that's why traditionally we only have done 3-year leases, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That was one thing.
It does include the Rainbow Deluxe fabric inserts.
It's something to think about.
I just putting it out there.
Bonus.
So if the board doesn't feel comfortable, I understand, and Scott will
I'm
have to
fine.
call the vendor and let know. I think it's important if maybe you want to ask the board how they feel,
I'm fine.
Right.
where they're at.
What's your comfort level?
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
You all right?
There's no good diligence on getting the quotes. That's-
Yeah, and
is
I
what it
worked
is.
very hard on that. I tried to get every option possible.
It's like I
So-
worked really hard.
I'd hate for it to go up.
It's a-
I'd hate for it to go up.
All right.
Right.
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby approves the 3-year lease with Midwest Transit Equipment for 2 14-passenger multifunctional school activity buses at $9,270 per bus with an annual cost of $18,540 as presented in the May 14th, 2019 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Let's get somebody else to second it besides.
Second.
Okay.
All right, Gina, second.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Mr. Smithing?
Yes.
And Ms. Sierra?
Yes.
All right.